I want to talk about the Women's March and the huge, huge anti-Trump protests, not only in Washington, D.C., but all over the world. We're talking about 500,000 people in Washington, D.C., in the millions nationally. Huge, fantastic. Not a single arrest in Washington, D.C. as of 6 p.m. on Saturday, according to D.C. police. Attendance at the protests drastically overshadowing attendance at our orange president's inauguration. Absolutely fantastic. I went to the one in Boston on Saturday. Absolutely inspiring turnout. Really good speakers. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Ed Markey, lots of other elected officials and activists. Really good stuff from Senator Warren. Specific, pointed strategy, opposing specific initiative, how to work it. Also talking about science and climate change. Really good stuff. And then it fell apart so hard, so badly that I left truly questioning whether progressives will get it together. Various activists start coming up, and it's all identity politics and self-destructive, non-strategic talking points about the patriarchy and aggressive feminism and speaking as a blank person type stuff. Identity politics failed during the last election. And I said during the post-election protests in November, if you're just getting the anger and frustration out now, okay. But eventually we've got to get to productive strategy. Trump has been inaugurated now, and I understand feeling afraid because of your identity, but we know that this laser focus on identity politics doesn't work. The Republicans put up a laughably unqualified, clueless orange buffoon, and an incredibly qualified candidate in Hillary Clinton couldn't defeat him. And yes, Russia, voter suppression, the FBI investigation, the email scandal, antipathy towards Obama in some states, it all played a role. But it should have been such a blowout that it wouldn't even have mattered. And identity politics couldn't even get enough people out to vote on a single day to defeat Donald Trump. And now identity politics is going to get people in the trenches to block legislation and make calls and send emails and organize boycotts, which is way more energy intensive than just voting. Wrong. It's not going to work. And Bernie Sanders had lots of support from the identity politics types, but it was catalyzed by a focus not on the immutable characteristics you're born with, but it was a class-based critique with the understanding that through class and economics and fighting corruption and cronyism, minority groups are going to be disproportionately helped. The problem with identity politics based on race and gender is that you're not appealing in a similar enough way to broad enough coalitions. The left needs a real plan here for the next 4 years. And it's not going to be catalyzed in any way by ranting about the patriarchy, citing the debunked statistic of 77 cents on the dollar, and talking about as a Muslim woman, ... In many ways, a rising tide lifts all boats is bogus. For example, tax cuts for the rich do not help poor people. They give rich people more money to save rather than invest in the economy. However, dealing with the issues that affect all people in the lower and middle classes, in other words, most people in our country, will most acutely help the people that are disproportionately impacted by these problems. This includes racial minorities, ethnic minorities, immigrants, women, LGBT individuals. Why was Occupy Wall Street so successful in almost single-handedly inserting the discussion about income and wealth inequality into the national dialogue? Because they approached the problem from an economic and corruption perspective. The beneficiaries of the issue will be those disproportionately affected, the identity groups we've been talking about. What is the goal now of these protests? Trump won. We need a plan to block actions, not to talk about the patriarchy. It has to be a message about what is fair and what is unjust. It needs to be a message about corruption versus anti-corruption. It has to be about who's lining their own pockets versus who's actually doing something to help the average person. That's the message that will unify real broad-based progressivism rather than getting into the oppression Olympics or appealing to specific groups in this way. Again, Occupy wasn't perfect, but they did this. Going to the bathroom on police cars, all that stuff around Occupy Wall Street that corporate media like talking about. But the message transcended identity to actual equality, fairness, corruption, and crony capitalism, and the problems inherent in the system rather than the symptoms of right now. I hope, Pat, that my fellow progressives will join me in organizing in this way. I'm concerned that the same low percentage of people will turn out to vote again in 2018 once the emotion of all this passes. We need to organize to ensure that Republicans lose control of the Senate and the House of Representatives in the midterms. There's governor's races to work on, and we need to focus on economics, corruption, cronyism, destructive vulture capitalism. That is the path forward, I believe.
Yeah, and if you even look at the other side, I mean, Donald Trump won because there was this collection, right? There was the people who were the more white working class voters. There were people who you may even classify as deplorables. It really takes a village to win something like this.
Send me your thoughts about this. I am inspired by the turnout, but I am concerned by some of the specifics. And there were lots of great discussions that took place. But in Boston, at least, I was a little worried about where the focus was. If you're just going to call me not really progressive because of my criticism, I don't think that is really a good critique. Critique the pragmatics of what I am saying if you want to critique what I'm saying. Today's program is made possible in part by Blue Apron, delivering meals ready to cook with perfectly portioned ingredients. I love not wasting food. And the great thing about Blue Apron, I just got a delivery from Blue Apron a couple days ago, in fact, is that every ingredient comes pre-portioned so that you don't throw food away. Some of the meals available this month include spaghetti squash and marinara with mushroom and garlic knots, as well as spicy shrimp and Korean rice cakes with cabbage, which I cooked. I think that was on my delivery a week and a half ago. You can check out this week's menu, get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping at blueapron.com/Pakman. That is blueapron.com/Pakman. Blue Apron is the better way to cook, available in 99% of food deserts.